Hey, what's good, fam? It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Today, we're talking about Alabama's projected depth chart going into the spring season for 2021. But before we do, hit the thumbs up button, like, and subscribe. We appreciate you more than you know. Start out with the quarterback position. I think going into the season, we've had videos on each of these quarterbacks, and there's a lot of talk that, all these guys are freshmen coming into the season eligibility-wise, but we want to reiterate something. This is Bryce Young's team going into the spring season. Everything that we gather from our sources tells us that Bryce Young is clearly the number one quarterback. That's no disrespect to Paul Tyson, Jalen Milroe, and at the end of the day, Saban is going to start the best player going into that game against Miami. But Bryce Young clearly is the guy going in. Last year, as a true freshman, Bryce Young was 13 of 22 passing for 156 yards with 1 touchdown. I think coming into this season, you're going to see Bryce Young play much more relaxed. We've talked about this several times when we discussed Bryce Young. He didn't have a lot of opportunities, and I felt that when he came in, played a little bit rushed, felt like he had to make a big play. I have confidence in Bryce Young that he's going to be able to lead Alabama's new offense going into this season. I know there's different camps that want to see different people at the quarterback position, but I think Bryce Young is the guy. And like I said earlier, Saban is going to put Alabama in the best situation possible. I think coming into this season as well, you have Bill O'Brien working with these quarterbacks, probably going to have a couple different wrinkles, but it's Alabama's offense. I think with that we've seen since 2017 when Brian Daboll was here, the offense has continued to progress, and Bill O'Brien's going to have some new wrinkles for the offense, but I think overall it's pretty much the same system that you're going to have over these last couple years. So Bryce Young coming in as a highly touted 5-star in 2020 will command the offense in 2021 going into springtime. We've talked about Paul Tyson, Alabama's pro-style quarterback, 6'5", 228 pounds. Big arm, live arm. I really like the fact that he's going to finally get some opportunities. Paul Tyson has 3 years of experience. So I think, learning from Mac Jones, learning from Tua Tagovailoa, getting an understanding of, where things need to be for a perfect season last year was a great learning experience for Paul Tyson. And now, he's going to get some opportunities. Look, guys that have been patient at Alabama, things have worked out. So I think that's kind of part of the process. Just be patient, wait your time. And when Paul Tyson is called on and when he has opportunities, I think he's going to make the most from. Really excited just to see him overall start to work with the ones or the twos. There's going to be a lot of competition as we're going to talk about in this video. Jalen Milroe is a third quarterback on scholarship at the University of Alabama. He's an early enrollee, so he's going to be able to get a lot of experience during this springtime, working with the twos, getting acclimated to the college life, right? Getting acclimated to going against Alabama's defense. We just talked about his film. He's got a big arm. He can move around. And I think overall, when you look at the quarterbacks in the room, he is the fastest quarterback, I'm guessing, straight up and down, right? I think Bryce is more shifty, but I think up and down the field, Jalen Milroe is going to be that speed guy. So really excited to see how he progresses at the end of springtime. And if he makes maybe some waves during the spring season in general, maybe even into that A-Day game. Let's talk about the running back room. Returning Brian Robinson, 91 carries last year, 483 yards. When you look at this running back room up and down, a lot of younger guys, a lot of younger, talented guys, but they don't really have that vet besides Brian Robinson. I think that's why Brian Robinson coming back to this team is almost vital, right? Because you have a senior who can show these younger guys the ropes, what it takes to be great. We saw a couple splashes of some of these younger guys, but I think going into the number one running back is clearly Brian Robinson. I would assume that the carries are split up a little bit more this season as opposed to last year where Najee Harris got fed the majority of the time, and rightfully so. But when you look at this running back group right here, you have Brian Robinson, who's a big, imposing running back at 230 pounds. And then you have some of these speed guys on the outside, right? We don't really know the health status of Trey Sanders, but I would assume that he makes a lot of progression going into the season. I doubt we get to see him at all this spring season, which is fine. But looking at the other running backs, you got Jace McClellan, speed guy, right? 23 attempts last year, 245 yards with 2 touchdowns. Roydell Williams, 19 carries, 74 yards. I think Roydell Williams, from what I gather, him and Trey Sanders are very similar in what they bring to the table. And then you got Kyle Edwards, who didn't play. Now, look, you got to remember that Killen Robinson is returning. I think everyone is really excited. Everyone saw the photos on social media, right? The guy is completely ripped. So I think when he arrives at Alabama, that was in 2019, he looked a little light, right? Maybe looked 180 pounds. I'm curious to see what Alabama lists him as, because he definitely looked over 200 pounds in those photos that we saw. And if he has the speed and now he has the size, don't be surprised if potentially Kellen Robinson is either the number 1 or even the number 2 running back going into the season. Kellen Robinson has a lot of potential. Glad to see him back into the fold. The wide receiver position, this is a position group overall. We're going to break this down, talking about the wide receiver, the Z position, the X position, and the slot position. I think this is where you're going to see the most competition, and you're also going to see a lot of competition with the offensive line, which we'll talk about. But when you look at the receiving group, you're losing Jalen Waddle, you're losing Devontae Smith. That's a lot of production. Yes, you are returning John Mechie, who we do have at that Z position, 55 receptions last year, 916 yards with 6 touchdowns, an incredible season. But behind him and besides him, you don't have a lot of receivers coming back with a lot of experience. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's going to create more opportunities for some of these younger guys to step up. Remember that Alabama added 4 wide receivers to this class from the class of 2021. Also at the Z position, look for Xavier Williams. Xavier Williams seemed to finally be getting onto the field towards the end of this past season. He had 3 receptions for 24 yards. I would also imagine that maybe Ajay Hall or Tyus Jones-Bell makes a splash at that Z position as well. Who's going to be the starter at the X position? Could it be Javon Baker? Only had 2 receptions for 15 yards during the 2020 season. Didn't get to see him as much as we all expected to see him play, but that's nothing to be worried about. I mean, I think overall, talent-wise, Javon Baker is about to have some sort of breakout performance, whether that's going to be in the springtime or whether that's going to be early on in the season. Clearly, he's got a guy. He's a type of player that has speed, has power, runs great routes, has great hands. You also have Ja'Cory Brooks and Trayshawn Holden. I think either of those guys could make a great fit for that X position, but I guess we're going to have to see which players rise up, and the competition will make these players better as we go into the springtime. So a lot of position battles taking place at the receiver position, in my opinion, going into the spring. The slot position, you got Slade Bolden. Now, we're going to pencil him in at the number 1 spot for now. 24 receptions, 270 yards. He has the most experience, but who has the most talent? Remember, you got Christian Leary coming in, and you got JoJo Earle. Dr. Matt Ray recently tweeted some information about Christian Leary, saying that his speed is off the charts. Now, if Slade Bolden can retain that slot position going in, all credit to him, but I think he's going to be pushed by some younger incoming freshmen, whether that's Christian Leary or JoJo Earle. Earle is the type of receiver that can make you miss, very shifty. And then Christian Leary has a little bit of shake to him as well, but has that top-end speed that can really change the momentum of the game. Let's talk about the tight end position. Now, at Alabama, historically, you have a tight end that usually goes out and gets receptions, and then you have a couple tight ends that are used in blocking formations. So your receiving tight end, 100% is going to be Jaleel Billingsley. 18 receptions last year, 287 yards with 3 touchdowns. I like everything about Billingsley. And I know there's not a lot of wide receivers with a lot of experience coming back, but I look to Jaleel Billingsley to be almost a hybrid type tight end and wide receiver. We've seen in the game of college football that teams that have been able to utilize a hybrid tight end, for example, Kyle Pitts, Brevin Jordan, Eric Gilbert, those teams have another weapon, and I think Alabama has that weapon in Billingsley. I wouldn't be surprised if he's Alabama's second leading receiver this year. 50 balls, something like that. I think he's going to have a monster year. In terms of your blocking tight ends, you got to think it's going to be Major Tennyson, Cam Latu, potentially even a Robbie Oates. So the tight end position, I think, has your skill set wide receiver in Billingsley. And I think in terms of a blocking tight end, you're going to be good to go in that regards. Don't forget about Kendall Randolph, listed as a tight end as well as an offensive lineman for the University of Alabama. When you look at the left tackle position, and now kind of talking about the offensive line, I like the setup, to be honest. I know you're losing Landon Dickerson, Deontay Brown, you're losing Alex Leatherwood, and those are big pieces to this offense. This offensive line won the Joe Moore Award. That's the top offensive line in the country during the 2020 season. They also lose Kyle Flood, their position coach. But coming back, you do have some experience. Evan Neal probably moved from right tackle to left tackle. He had 789 snaps last year, a Pro Football Focus grade of 84.2. Behind him, I would imagine potentially Kendall Randolph as a number 2 left tackle. He had 313 snaps, very versatile offensive lineman. He played right tackle, he played left tackle, he played right guard, and he played left guard. Maybe also watch for Javion Cohen. He's a guy who played left tackle last year during 2020 as a true freshman, and he played in 5 games. So he does have some good experience. Left guard, 100% it's going to be Emil Ekiyor, 885 snaps with a Pro Football Focus grade of 75.3. And then behind Emil Ekiyor at that 2 spot for the left guard, you got to look at maybe early enrollee by the name of Terrence Ferguson. Heard really good things about him. Other guys to watch include Tanner Bowles and Jaden Roberts. At the center position, Chris Owens. He played a lot last year for Alabama, 303 snaps. 3 games at right tackle. He played 2 games at left tackle. He played 6 games at center. So he does have a lot of experience, and he's a very versatile lineman. So potentially, if Chris Owen needs to pop out to, let's say, right tackle during the season or kind of shift him around, you can do that because you have Darian Dalcourt, who I think will be Alabama's second center coming into the season. The right guard position looks like it's going to be a position battle. I would say Tommy Brown, Pierce Quick, Amari Kite, all those guys trying for that right guard position, with Tommy Brown being the favorite to win that spot. Tommy Brown played in 56 snaps last year and played at 6 games at the left guard position. And, you know, he's not your typical guard in the sense that because he's built more like a tackle, being that he's 6'7". So Tommy Brown versus Pierce Quick, even slide in Amari Kite, another guy that I feel is more like a tackle. I think all those guys are going to be competing for the right guard position during the springtime. Speaking of position battles, let's talk about that right tackle position. Who's it going to be? You think it's going to be JC Latham, a 5-star, or is it going to be 5-star Tommy Brockemeyer? Potentially, maybe even Damon George. He played at 3 games last year as a true freshman at the right tackle position. I can't wait to see these guys really go at it during springtime, and especially some of these early enrollees. I'm really, really curious to see who the better tackle is right now between JC Latham and Tommy Brockemeyer. I'm sure you're feeling the same way. And it's going to take these guys a little bit of time to develop. But at this level, these guys are coming in. They know what's in front of them. They know that the competition is going to make them better. And I can't wait to see how we feel about this depth chart after spring football. We're going to continue to break down Alabama football moving into the spring football season. This is our early offensive depth chart. Stay tuned for our defensive depth chart, which will be posted soon right here on BamaInsider.com. Definitely hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We appreciate you guys more than you know.